No, no. Do you have any doubts in SOQL and SOSL previous topics? This one. మీకు ఎస్ఓక్యూఎల్లో కానీ ఎస్ఓఎస్ఎల్లో కానీ ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా? హలో, హలో మీనా గారు, హలో, హలో, హలో,
హలో,
వినిపిస్తుందా అండి నేను చెప్పేది?
ఇప్పుడు వినిపిస్తుంది. ఇందాక వినిపించలేదు అసలుకి.
ఓకే, మీకు ప్రీవియస్ టాపిక్స్లో ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా అంటున్నాను.
ఇప్పుడు వరకు అయితే లేదండి. నేను చెప్తా, ఇది చూసి మళ్ళీ చెప్తాను.
Okay, so we'll see the triggers. Okay, so as we discussed, right, so trigger is executed when inserted, updated and deleted and undeleted. Okay, so trigger, the format is, so we will write the trigger keyword and the trigger name on which object we are going to write a trigger. So we'll mention that object and we'll mention the keywords as well. So let me write a trigger. How to create a trigger in Salesforce. So new. So we'll select a Apex trigger. So it will give the initial format. So here we need to give the trigger name. So I'm going to write a contact trigger or an account trigger. Account trigger. So here we need to select an account object. Okay, account object. So it will use the syntax. Okay, trigger, trigger name. Okay, on which object we have written account. So before insert. So the event is before insert. I'll copy this example. So here is the existing one example. Okay. Okay. So see here. So here all the events has been mentioned. So this is a before. We will use before insert for the before insert. That is, record is inserted into the data. Before the record is inserting into the database. If you want to check any data on the record, so we will use this event. Okay. Before update. So as like before insert, if you want to check any update record data validation, so we will use before update, before delete as well. So when we are deleting a record, so before that, if you want to check any thing, so we will use this before delete. So mostly we will use, if you want to update a record before something is happening, insert, update, delete. So for that actions we will use this events, before events. So comes to after events. So when a record is updated, that is inside the database or saved into the database or deleted from the database or undeleted, that is the record is again comes into the database. After this action, if we want to perform something, so we will use this events, after events. Okay, so here for example I am checking trigger dot is before, that is before event I am checking, and trigger dot is insert, so insert event I am checking. So after the insert of an account, I am updating the description as record inserted. account description as record inserted. And in the second if condition, so trigger record is before, okay, event is before trigger event, and is update. So before update, okay, before update, I am updating description as name change from the account old name, okay, name change from. So here I am writing a condition. Okay, so name not account name not equal to old name. So it means the name is changed. So at the time I am updating the record description as with the old name changed from. Okay, so the same as, so trigger is before and deleted before deleting. So it debugs the account name. So it will print the account name in the log. Okay, and this is also after update, after is insert. So after the inserting, so it will print the records size, how many records are inserted. And this one, trigger is after and is update. Okay, after the update, so it prints the updated name here. And this one is after and is delayed. And so we are using the trigger dot is old, trigger dot old list. Okay, so it prints the deleted account name here. And is after is undelete. Okay, just it restore account name, it will prints. Now, so let me do some exercise in account record. Okay, account, let me open the account. So, okay, so, an integration. Okay, account trigger. Okay, okay, let me update, create a record, new account record. Okay, and parent account updating. Shiva. Okay, Krishna.
చేస్తున్నారు?
Yeah, so I'm creating a record. So it should uh, it should update the description. Okay, update the description. See, the record is inserted. So it has updated the description because we wrote a trigger to update the description when account is inserted. Okay, so let me try the update as well. Okay, so I am updating the account name. So we've written,
శివ మీ స్క్రీన్ విజిబుల్ లేదు, స్టక్ అయింది.
మీ దగ్గర ఇంటర్నెట్ ఏమైనా స్లో ఉందా? సో ఇప్పుడు ఇప్పుడు is it visible? Meena, can you check, is it visible now? Hello. Any one of you, can you confirm the screen is visible now?
Bro, yeah, bro.
Oh.
Yes, sure.
Oh.
Yes, sure.
Now I will update a record. Count record. Okay. So it should change the description. Name changed from, it should print the old name. Okay. See Shiva Krishna. So I will add a chari. Okay. And updating the account. See. So the name is changed from Shiva Krishna. Okay. So the new name is Chari. So let me again update. So I will add 1, 2, 3. So now, so see, it is again updated to Shiva Krishna Chari. Okay. So that's how the triggers will work. So and also this one, delete before delete. So it should print the account name. So we have to check it. This is in the logs. Okay. Let me go and delete this. Okay. We open that. See here. So deleting the Krishnachari and deleted. Because after delete also you wrote that the trigger. Okay. Is before and this after delete also we wrote, right? Deleted. So that's why it is. So likewise triggers will work. Okay. Understood? Just as we have flows, so we have triggers in Apex. If it is not achievable with the flows, so we will go for the triggers. Okay. Generally, the integrations and all the things we will go for the Apex only. But some options is now available in the flow as well, but not completely. Okay. And see. Okay, trigger is okay, right? So trigger handler frameworks. So we have multiple handler frameworks in Apex. Okay, so generally we consider 5 handler frameworks. So this we can design as per the project. Okay, whether it is a small project and medium sized project and bigger project. So first thing is first basic one is we have a trigger. Okay, we will have a trigger, and for the trigger we will use a handler class. Okay, like okay, like this. So we have a trigger for all those before events. Okay, we will route from this uh, before event if box. See here, if the trigger is insert, so we will route to handler dot before method. Okay, so if trigger is update, we will route to handler dot before update method. See here, so this is the account trigger. Okay, trigger, just we will have only this code in the trigger. The other functional code will be in the Apex class. Okay, we will call that Apex class from the trigger. Okay, just trigger contains only this code, these lines of code in every trigger. Okay, and we will call this methods, Apex class methods from the trigger. We will pass the context variables from this trigger. Okay, so let's discuss the 5 types of trigger handler framework. So basic one is just I showed, right. So we will have a trigger. So for each events, okay, we'll have if conditions. We will check the event, okay, okay, after or before, and we will call the Apex class methods to perform the tasks. That is the first one, single handler class, basic one. So event handler. So event handler. So for every event, that is insert and update, we will have uh, different if conditions and different service handler. Okay, service handler. Okay, in play. So see here, in place of events, we will have insert. That is for example, this the event is before events. Instead of before events, we will check is insert here if conditions for every is insert and is update is delete. We will have separate if blocks, and in that if from that if blocks, we will call the methods of the Apex class to perform the task. That is second type. This is based on the context. First one is, that is event type, whether it is before and after. So second type is, this is based on the action. Is it insert, or is it update, or is it delete, and is it undelete? Based on the actions event, we will design the handler. And third one is multiple helper classes. We will use multiple helper classes, okay, to perform the actions. Okay, in insert we will have multiple helper classes. Okay, just like the account service and handle helper service, notification helper. For each task we will have helper services in the multiple helper classes. And reusable one is, so we will use the inheritance or shared logic concepts to reuse the basic helper code. Okay, so we will define a parent class and we will reuse the code, okay, across the all objects. That will be used across the all object. And using metadata driven, so we will define a metadata. Okay, in that metadata we will define whether it should be activated or deactivated, and we will check and methods also we will mention in the metadata. Okay, so from metadata, so we can active or deactive the trigger actions. Okay, so we will check for every trigger action, we will check the metadata is active or not. Okay, checkbox, and whatever the methods active in the metadata, we will call those actions. Okay, so we will discuss deeply this handler frameworks in the advanced Apex after the course. I think if you learn this now only, so you will be confused. Okay, just I am discussing the frameworks. That's it, and the frameworks how they will implement. Okay, so these simpler frameworks will be used in the simple projects, and this metadata configurable frameworks will be used in the big projects like bank projects and secure projects, because it can be handled by the admin. So the trigger can be activated or deactivated by the admin also. Okay. So the best practices, I told you, right? So we have to use one trigger per one object every time. Okay, and we have to use the before and after scenarios. Correctly. Mostly the before scenarios will be used for the data validation and to update the records, and after scenarios So mostly we will use for update a deleted record based on the record record action. For example, if one record is inserted, so for that account record is inserted, and for that we have to update the related contact. So we will use the after trigger like that. So every time we should write a trigger with the minimal code, and we should be the code should be clean. Mostly we will maintain one line per trigger, because we will call handler class from the trigger, and the handler class will handle the trigger actions and events. Okay. Okay. So that is, we should implement the trigger frameworks for the better and clean triggers. Okay. So we have to bulkify the data, bulkify the triggers actions. Okay. So that will keeps our governor limit should not hit. Okay. And use a proper naming convention like the trigger name, account trigger, and contract trigger like that. So avoid the unnecessary updates from the trigger. So we should not use the SOQL DMLs in the loops that will trigger the corner limits. Okay. Uh, so the key idea is we should keep the triggers simple, clean, and efficient, and which makes we can maintain the triggers easily. Okay, understood? Narsa and Meena. Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Hello.
Yes, sure.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. So by that the trigger concept is over. So I will provide more examples in the Apex workbook, so you can practice that. Okay. And exception handling. So exception handling means so there is a code block. Okay. So the code block will may it may produce the bugs. Okay. Or it may produce errors. So that code block we will write in the try block to catch that error or bug in the running of an Apex program. Okay. So for that the exception handling will be used. So we have to try, catch, and finally. Okay. Keywords. So we will write the code we are suspecting to get a error. Okay. That code block we will write in the try block. Okay. And this catch block, so it will catch that error, that exception, runtime exception, and in catch block, so we can handle that exception as per the requirement. Okay. And the finally block is, so after the catching an exception, it will execute. Okay. Always it will execute. Okay. It will always execute. Okay. We will write the code which produce the exception in the exception, so in the try block. Okay. With the catch block we will catch that exception and we will handle that exception. So finally, so we will always execute the statements which are in the finally block. So let me go, explain you with the example. Okay. So this is an example program. So exception real time demo. Here I may get three types of exceptions. One is a null pointer exception. One null pointer exception means in a variable there is a null, so we can't operate any functions on the null values. Okay, so that time we will encounter a null pointer exception and list exception. So if there is any values in the list, so we can't fetch any values from the list. That time I can uh, uh, I may get list exception. Okay, DML exception. So if I'm going to create an account, but I'm not giving the last name of an account record. Okay, so that time, so the DML will fail because the last name is required. Okay, so then I will get DML exception. Okay, so I want to catch these exceptions when in the runtime. So but to catch that exceptions, I will place this code block in the try block. Okay, so in catch block, so whether I can declare it as a general exception or I can specify the particular type of an exception. For example, here I am getting null pointer exception. I know what type exception I will get. So at this scenario, I can make it as null pointer exception. Otherwise, I can generally declare it in a catch block in as exception. Okay. So in catch block, so to catch a null pointer exception, I'm declaring it as null pointer exception E. Okay, so I'm handling with printing the exception message. Okay, error message I got from the exception, and likewise for the list exception also I'm printing the exception message whatever I am getting. So let me write a program. Okay, see here I am writing a new program. Okay, create account. Okay, create account. Okay, static void. Okay, create create AC create ACC. Create ACC. So I'm going to create an account. So account. Okay, AC equal to new account. Okay, so if I execute this account, okay, static. Okay. Okay, so if I execute this one, okay, so go to anonymous window. Okay, create account obj equal to new create account. So I created a instance here. Okay, instance of which type? Create account type. So I will call obj dot, I will call acc method here. So here I will get an exception. See, static public static. Okay, let me see here. cannot be reference of unstarted content. Sorry, non-static, not required. Okay, right. Okay, so see here. So I will get an error. Executable. Let me see this account is created or not. See this one. See this account is created or not. It's going to be Apex class one. So the account is not created actually. We create account is not executed that one. Okay, because why the account is not created? So just I am insert AC. So here I am initializing, but I am not performing a DML action. So that's why the account is not created here. So now it will window now execute. So see here. So I encountered a DML exception. Okay, the required field is missing. Narsan Meena, are you observing?
Yeah, bro.
Okay, I encountered DML exception. Field required field is missing. So I should handle this exception. How can I handle this exception? So I will place this code block into try. Okay, try. Okay. So I will place this code block into try. Okay, catch. So I will catch the exception. Okay, exception E. Okay, so in the exception E, so I will system dot debug exception plus E dot get message. Debug. Okay, so now I will print the message, error message. Okay, the log. Let me execute this one. Yes, anonymous window. Let me execute this. See here, the exception message is required field is missing. Okay, for the field name. Okay, and one more thing. So catch it finally. So this block will execute anytime. Always this block will execute. So here always execute. Okay, so this block will always execute. So here what should you observe is, so here I will get the exception. Okay, and here I will try to print debug the account record which I'm going to which I created. Okay, okay, yes. Okay, so here, so this line will not execute because, so here I'm encountering an exception. So exception is occurring here. So it will directly jumps from this line to this catch block because here exception is happening, and this catch block will catch from here. So this system.debug account record will not execute because here I am getting an exception. So let me try to execute. See here, the exception record which I'm printing and always block is executing. This seventh line is not executing because the exception is happening here. So after the lines after the exception, so will not execute. Okay, have you observed?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is about exception handling. And so there are some platform rules and limits which we will say governor limits. So Salesforce has implemented, so which we discussed earlier, right? In starting classes, we have some governor limits to resource for the resource utilization, fair resource utilization. So the governor limits are implemented in 5 categories. Okay, so that is apex transaction limits and CPU memory limits and query cursor limits and execution limits and trigger limits and static and size limits. So when we come to that, what is governor limits and how it should work. So these are the rules implemented for the resource usages. Okay, so it will enforces the fair usage of multi-tenant environment. Okay, so because we are using the single resource, single server, right? So multiple clients will use single resource, single servers and single resources, right? So this is the shared architecture, okay, multi-tenant architecture. So to be a fair use policy, so Salesforce has implemented these limits. Okay, so for that we have for the SOQL limits from synchronous processing, that is one by one processing. We will have 100 SOQLs, okay, and in asynchronous processing we have 200 SOQL links. This is per transaction. This is per transaction. Okay. For SOSL queries, we should use 20 per transaction, and DML statements for insert, delete, and update, and delete, and delete. So we will use 150 per transaction. Okay. And records limit in SOQL, we have 50K records, and records should be processed by DML will be 10,000 records. So at a time we can create 10,000 records. If we hit 10,001 records, so it will give a DML exception. Okay, and callouts, 100 callouts per transaction. Now, if you come to the CPU limits, we have 10,000 nanoseconds, milliseconds, and for asynchronous processing, 60,000 milliseconds. Heap size we have 6 MB. In asynchronous processing, we'll have 12 MB. Okay, the cursor query locator limits 10,000 per transaction, aggregates query rows 50,000, and SOQL query timing, so 120 seconds. So if that is this more than that, so it will give an error or exception. Okay. So future calls, queuable jobs, these are asynchronous processing jobs. So we'll discuss in further classes. Okay, and trigger limits. So I said the recursion, right? Recursion. So for example, one by one. So there is a two records, two records. So one update will cause another trigger to run. Right? The two triggers. One record update will cause the one trigger to run, and that update the trigger is going to do will cause the another trigger to run. So that is cyclic process. So in that process only 16 times will be allowed recursion depth. So more than that it will create an exception. Okay, the same thing code, this one static size limits 6 MB per hour, and single email send for the 10 transactions. For 10 transactions we can send only single email, and these are the limits the specified implemented by the Salesforce. And security best practices in Apex. So we have to use with sharing and without sharing. With sharing means the sharing rules, that is we have implemented data sharing and security, right? So that rules will be enforced on the user with Apex classes. Okay, for that we will mention with sharing before the Apex class, like this. Like this, we have to write the Apex class with sharing keyword. Okay, and every time we have to enforce the field permissions. Okay, field permissions. How we can enforce the field permissions in Apex? So we have to use schema.object.account is accessible. That is, so the rules we are created in the data visibility or data in profiles FLS. So it will be based on that. So the user is accessible to create an record or edit an record. So that option we will access here in the Apex through the schema. Okay, in detail we will discuss in the dynamic Apex, the last topic. This advanced topic. So if you tell you now only, so you can confuse. Okay, and we have to prevent the SQL injections. So for that we have to use bind variables. For example, select ID from the account where name equal to Shiva, like that you shouldn't give. So we have to, in Apex we have to use variables to bind those names with the dynamic names. Okay, and so data limits, for every SQL we have to use the limits, and necessary fields only we have to include in the select. Okay, so if we include unnecessary fields in the select, it will impose the burden on the processing, server processing. Okay, at time also it will takes more. Okay, and we have to use crowd permission. Just now I told you, right, is accessible, is updatable, and with sharing and without sharing for the Apex classes we have to implement. Okay, this is the crux of the Apex security. Okay, so I think this is enough today. I think in the next class we will discuss the asynchronous Apex. So what is asynchronous Apex, and how what is future method and queuable method and batch Apex and scheduler. Okay, so after that we will discuss dynamic Apex and test classes and some important keywords we will use in the Apex classes. We will discuss that. By that, so Apex will be completed. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And we practice well. Without practicing, we can't get anything. Okay. Okay then. Bye. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank
If
you.
you have any doubts, bring in the WhatsApp group. Connect.
Okay.